everyone, welcome back to Rolling Solo. My name is Adam Smith. An exciting unboxing landing on the channel today. As you've already seen in the title of the video and on camera here, Assassin's Creed Brotherhood of Venice. This comes from Triton Noir. If you're not familiar with them, they're the ones behind V Commandos. That game has been in the solo community for quite some time now. Has also recently been out for more crowdfunding as they're adding additional content into the game. But Assassin's Creed is another one from them that has been eagerly awaited by the solo community, and I'm excited to say we've got ourselves an advanced copy here prior to the ones that are landing for the backers. Now, the one thing I want to mention about what you're about to see in this unboxing video is, first off, this box was handcrafted in terms of it being put together. So this is not going to be the quality of the box coming from the factory in the final versions going to backers. But even in this current state, it looks really, really good. It's also worth noting that once we dive inside the box, that the backers packages that will come from the factory containing the game boxes will be much better organized than what you're about to see in this unboxing. So think of this as almost a first look at things, but not necessarily how they're going to be once these things start arriving from the factory. So really excited to dive in here. There are some spoilerish material in here, but I'm going to be on purpose avoiding those areas to ensure that you can watch this all the way through without actually landing on any spoilers. So just before we go ahead and open up the box, take a look at everything inside, let's read a little bit about what Assassin's Creed Brotherhood of Venice is all about. First off, it's a cooperative tactical board game of infiltration and assassination, as you would expect. Set in Renaissance Venice at the time when the Brotherhood of Assassins expands in Italy, the game gives 1 to 4 players control of never-seen-before assassins in a campaign to develop their headquarters and advance the Brotherhood's agenda against the Templars. Players must find the right balance between stealth and combat to progress through a mission-based campaign, developing their own abilities as well as their new headquarters. So, without further ado, let's open this thing up. Now, with the lid removed, we begin to start seeing some of the components inside the box. They're all going to be layered inside. It's actually a great point to also mention that Triton Noir has gone through the box to ensure that everything was here. So, in terms of how things are sitting in terms of the order from top of this box all the way down to its bottom may be different in that factory version, as again, there's already been hands inside this box before. This is not a sealed box that was sent. So we're going to take a look at the very first components and booklets that show up on the top of this box one by one. We're going to get the box out of the picture and just start to look at each of the things that come inside of it one by one. The first things to pull out of the box is going to be the rulebook and the campaign booklet. It states right here, start by reading this booklet and please read the rulebook first. So check this out before you start diving into the campaign booklet. It's also worth mentioning there's a ton of spoilers inside that campaign booklet. So I'm going to be showing you select things from it that will not spoil anything for you. And in terms of the rulebook, we can certainly dive into that next. Also, if you see any dings or wear on any of this stuff, again, remember, other hands were inside this box. Time to see the inside of this rulebook. First thing you're going to be greeted with is some beautiful artwork, and right after that, the contents list. So here is where you can check to ensure you've got all your tiles, cards, tokens, stands, everything, including miniatures, all inside the box, double checking everything. Also moving to this page, very important you read these first few pages and really read this entire rulebook prior to moving onwards. But it has some really great information right off the top about how to read the rulebook, and also the fact you can learn by playing. This game does allow you to play through tutorials at the very beginning of the game that are going to introduce game mechanics at a pace that's consumable versus throwing the entire farm at you and hoping you just understand everything. On top of that, there's also a lot of envelopes that you should not be opening inside of this game box. So it also just reinforces that notion of don't open the box and just rip into everything. Be very cautious that you're only opening what you're supposed to be opening and not just diving into every envelope you see. So be sure to read the rulebook fully to understand all that. Then it jumps into your game turns, which go all the way through. As you would typically expect, your map set up here, and continuing on towards your assassins and choosing them and their actions, and onwards we go from there. So that's essentially the look and feel of the rulebook overall. And in terms of the number of pages, it's actually not too large. For the scale of the box, you'd think this rulebook would be massive. Has a really, oh, there you go. You got an index at the back, very helpful. And your credits land there. So you're talking about, where do they list the page numbers here? Actually, they do not. So it looks like they've got no page numbers unless I've lost my sight, but they do have numbers next to each piece inside the rulebook, so you can quickly find it during the index, but there's no page count here. But I'll give you an idea as to how thick this thing is. It really isn't that thick at all. Now let's take a look at only a couple of pages in the campaign booklet to ensure no major spoilers are thrown out there. So first off, once you understand the rulebook, you'll open up the campaign rulebook, and this is going to break things down into memories, of course. If you're familiar with the Assassin's Creed IP, everything's broken down to memories. You got memory 0.1. This is the one that is safe to show in terms of the structure of what you can expect in each of these memories on this page. And then if we continue on through, and again, it's tied to an envelope. If we continue going, we've got a second page here as well. So this is as much as I'm going to show, nothing further than this. The only other thing I will mention is at the very back of this book, there is a diary of memories, and this is going to be somewhere where you're going to keep track of all the information from each of the memories as you go through them. So this, again, is not spoiler material. This is going to be what you're going to be using to track all this stuff. But there's a lot of it. Next up, we have sticker sheets. There are 6 of them, and it's a 5x7 grid, so 35 stickers per sheet. Next up, we have a token sheet. So we have things like chest tokens here. We have special objective tokens. We also have a number of objective tokens numbered 1, 2, and 3. There's also alert state tokens. And these ones right here are the enemy entrance tokens. These are 6 white triangular tokens. These ones here are the caltrop bomb tokens. Then we have the reminder and restriction area tokens. And finally, at the very bottom, the rule point tokens that are numbered. All right, let's check out some tiles because these look really, really nice. And they give that real perception of depth, which I really like. So some of these really tall towers cast long shadows across the tiles, which make them really pop and feel more 3D than they actually are. Now, remember in the Assassin's Creed Kickstarter, there was the ability to pick up the crow's nest and the tower, and you can use those as actual 3D miniature models on the game board to depict different locales, which is pretty awesome and definitely will add to the immersion factor of the game. Here we'll just go through these tiles one by one. So we've got a larger tile, looks to be on one side with a couple of smaller squares on the opposite side. I'm going to flip these over, and some of them might just punch out on their own as they're quite ready to go. And there'll be varying locations and varying looks to everything here. We just have some roofs, for instance, and we're going to flip this over to the opposite side. Because again, remember, it's Assassin's Creed. There is a lot of traversing the environment on top of buildings. And I know this very well from my lengthy plays of the video games. The artwork overall is really nice and definitely reminds me of the theme of Assassin's Creed. So they nailed that 100%. Like the water, for instance, looks very realistic. Love the shadows on all the different areas. You can see they've done a really good job of casting shadows inside of the different areas of the tiles just to add to that level of immersion. And look, there's one that wants to come out right away. And then they got the indoor look, the shadowing of maybe some candles up against a wall or some lanterns. There's also icons on the tiles themselves, you'll see, which I'm going to have to learn more about as I go along because I'm not sure what they necessarily mean. Like this, absolutely stunning. Looks awesome. This is a really large tile too. I'll flip it over to the opposite side. Completely different look on this side. Just gorgeous. And then again, with that depth with even, you know, having a bird flying above, right? Just to give you that separation and understanding of something being lower, something being high above with the shadow and the bridge in between. Just very, very cool. And actually, I don't believe I showed you guys the opposite side of that one. Maybe I did. Final one. Next up, we have the enemy board. This is double-sided and has differences depending on which side you have face up. This is the compass board. There's no difference in terms of which way you have this compass up. And this right here is, of course, the assassin board. If you flip it over, there is a little bit of artwork on the back as well, a nice touch. And you'll also notice that these are recessed, so you can actually keep your tokens for tracking inside of them. However, the cards will sit on top of the board and to the sides and bottom. Next up, we have the miniatures, and the first thing you're going to find on top of each tray of miniatures is going to be a sheet which will help you to understand where these miniatures should go back into their correct slots once you're done playing. Not going to matter when you first open the box, but it definitely will matter later on. And again, it doesn't repeat itself in terms of the image. It just states this individual. There's 20 of them, and they all slot into these positions right here, keeping things nice, smooth, and easy to understand. Moving past this, we now have a tray of miniatures to take an up-close look at, and of course, I'll just be showing you each of the unique sculpts as we go through. Other trays won't have as much duplication. There'll be more unique sculpts, but this is the first one that I found. Here we have the crossbowmen. These miniatures are referred to as the agiles. You have horsemen. This is a fast travel station. These are the rooftop gardens. This is the naval cannon. Here's a look at the next tray of miniatures, again with a sheet on top to keep things easy. Here are the miniatures underneath. We'll just take off the cover and go through each of the unique sculpts. You also get these objective bases that come inside the box in the top right-hand corner. There's actually a couple more, as well as a bunch of click-on colored bases. And now we've made it to the final tray inside this gigantic base box. You're going to find a ton of envelopes, and I'm not kidding you, there is a lot here. But these ones should not be open until specified by the game. I'm not going to be touching these or opening these on camera during the unboxing. Spoilers abound in these things. And over here we have 6 secret boxes. Again, I will not be opening any of these either. The only thing that's down here that's visible, well, besides the plastic baggies, are these 2 miniatures right here. So let's go ahead and take a look at them up close. This gigantic miniature is called the Lion of Venice, and it definitely looks pretty awesome from all angles. And this is Leonardo da Vinci's tank. Now, after removing a couple of the secret boxes, again, not opening any of them, just putting them to the side, there's compartments underneath of them that are definitely worth looking into because they house the dice. There's 2 sets of dice right here. We've got another set of dice right here, some cards, as well as some cubes. The rulebook calls these red dice, and that makes perfect sense. These dice right here are the white dice. And finally, we have a large amount of black dice. A good handful of translucent cubes, white and red. And if I'm not mistaken, these are the reinforcement cards that come inside the box. And you'll see there's a difference at the very bottom there in terms of the number of assassins would be my guess. Now, the one thing I will mention about this insert that I really like is if you take a look under some of the miniatures even, there are actually compartments that are not utilized for anything as of yet. So they've obviously got a plan to store things like dice, tokens, and everything else that you're going to punch out earlier on in the video into these compartments at the bottom of the insert, which is very handy to have a slot for them. And that, my friends, is going to wrap up the unboxing for the core box, that giant box we saw at the beginning of the video for Assassin's Creed. Now what you're going to see as I quickly go through these, some of the cool things, the extra add-ons, just add to that immersion factor, things that aren't necessarily required at all for gameplay, but just look awesome. So you've got a tower here, a crow's nest, and some extra fancy dice. Now there are a handful of expansions that came out with the Assassin's Creed Kickstarter, so it's worth mentioning those do exist. I'm not going to be unboxing those on camera, however, but I will show you these right now. So let's start with the dice. In the dice pack, you're going to receive these beautiful looking dice that definitely are a step up from the ones in the core game. The red dice you see just to the back of my hand over here, you get a number of those as well inside of the pack, but these are really the focus and they look fantastic. And now let's dive into the final 2 things, the tower box and the crow's nest box. Again, I'll use the same disclaimer I used at the beginning of the video for the giant core box. The packaging in terms of its quality from the factory will be of higher standards, as well as the fact that there's already been hands inside these boxes, so they're not in pristine shape. So here's a look at the inside of the packaging. I've already gone ahead and took off the shell covering that sits on the very top, and it's buttoned into place to make sure the two don't become separated in any way, shape, or form. Inside we've got the tower as well as some minis to just put on some finishing touches. So let's take all this stuff out and set it up. Here is the tower fully assembled. It was very easy to put together. I'll show you exactly how it's done. You've got the 2 bottom portions. They're already together. They don't come apart. And then this top square right here literally just sits on top, and there's grooves to slot it in. It slots in tight enough. You do not need to glue this, but you certainly can if you want to. This right here has a position to slot in on the top, and the 2 miniatures have slots for their feet to go in. So again, this can be easily broken down within seconds, put back in the box and thrown away, but then also be brought out to really just boost that immersion factor of your game. You even got the wagon down below, making it look absolutely tiny. Laying the tower down, I'll show you guys the underneath of it. It's hollow all the way through. And then in terms of the sides here, you've got this sculpt on this side, then this one, and then they begin to repeat. So basically, it's the same on these 2 sides and these 2 sides. Next up, we have the crow's nest. I'm going to go ahead and build this one as well so you can see it freestanding. Here's a look at the crow's nest. Individuals that love painting things like this are really going to add to the look of this thing and its table presence. Here's a quick look at the different sides for the crow's nest as well, for those interested. And that's going to end this unboxing video for Assassin's Creed Brotherhood of Venice from Triton Noir. Let me know in the comments below. Are you looking forward to this one arriving? Has this unboxing just put your eyes on this one for the first time? What do you think are the pros and cons of what you saw? Did you like what you see? Did you not like what you saw? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to have those conversations with you. Thank you guys so much for watching. And as always, keep on rolling solo.